Hey guys, what's up? I got a Blu-ray DVD collection update video. I also got like a cool little poster to show off. I haven't been doing a ton of buying recently. I've just been buying a couple things here and there. I got one thing I pre-ordered, a bunch of stuff I bought at random. I guess I should start with the bottom of the stack, the stuff I bought locally and didn't order. I got a copy of The Cell, starring Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn. The Cell is actually a pretty cool little like science fiction psychological horror film about a serial killer who is essentially he's about to be captured, so he attempts suicide and ends up in a coma, and with the help of this psychiatrist who is played by Jennifer Lopez, they go inside his mind using an experimental new type of therapy, and they see like essentially what is inside his mind, and it's really weird and interesting, and it's a really well shot, put together film. I really like the visual aesthetic of the like scenes inside the killer's mind. I wish it was a little more weird, and I wish there were more scenes inside the killer's mind, but other than that, it's a really solid little flick. Next is a little flick called Haunted Honeymoon, directed by Gene Wilder and starring Gene Wilder, God rest his soul. I remember watching this movie when I was really young and really thinking it was absolutely hilarious. So when I found a copy of it for like $7.50, I figured why the hell not get it. Haunted Honeymoon I remember being a really funny kind of horror comedy. This is from Kino, and this has no special features on it, which is a little upsetting, but that doesn't matter. It's remastered, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, I remember Haunted Honeymoon being pretty entertaining. Next, I have a stack of titles from Massacre Video, 4 titles from Massacre Video that I've recently bought and watched all of them. The first one I bought was Phantom Killer, which is one of their recent releases. I think this is actually their most recent title on the catalog. Phantom Killer, and I hear they're trying to get all the sequels to this movie, which I would love to see the sequels, because this one was actually pretty fun. Phantom Killer is essentially an erotic, semi-pornographic, giallo-inspired slasher film, essentially about a serial killer who imagines women he sees in public naked, and then he goes and kills them, and he always ends up killing them in the woods. And in the woods, for some reason, there's stage lights in the woods, as well as colorful lighting, and for some reason, the girls always feel the need to get naked in the woods in order to get past some fence or something that's near them. It's really ridiculous, and really entertaining for how cheesy and kind of stupid it is. It comes with a newly recorded audio commentary track from the director, and that's really cool. It's really cool to see that on a release like this. It also comes with a short film called The Baby Doll Strangler, as well as a making-of featurette of that short film, as well as this film. Phantom Killer is pretty solid little slasher kind of film. It's entertaining enough. I mean, there are better low-budget foreign kind of slasher films out there, but this one's pretty fun. I got Nutbag, directed by Nick Poblano, I think that's his last name. Nutbag is a shot-on-video psychological horror film about a serial killer who is just kind of a fucked-up individual in general, and he goes around killing hookers in Las Vegas, and that is the whole setup of the movie. That's the whole premise. It claims to be based on a true story. This film is the basis for the director's second film and the only other film he's made to date, Murder Set Pieces, and I've seen Murder Set Pieces. I saw Murder Set Pieces before seeing this, and I knew it was directed by the guy who made Murder Set Pieces. Let me tell you right now, Murder Set Pieces is a murder set piece of shit. That movie is fucking awful. Nutbag, on the other hand, is actually a fairly decent little movie. Not something I'd probably watch ever again, but it was a decent flick, and one I would recommend if you're looking for an interesting psychological horror and or slasher film that you haven't really heard of. I mean, everybody, when you think of like psychological horror kind of films about misogynistic killers, you always get the classics, stuff like stuff like Maniac always shows up first when it comes to like classic films about misogynistic killers. But if you're looking for something that's a little underrated and you're okay with shot on video, Nutbag's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting little watch. Where did I fucking have this on my shelf? Oh. Next I got Evil in the Woods. This one has no features other than like a still gallery DVD-ROM and a DVD-ROM with the script dialogue. Essentially, this is a movie, and from the way the film is made, it seems like the director meant to make even more movies of this similar kind of vein. But this is the only one that ever came to be. It's about a low-budget film crew that goes down to Mildew, Georgia, in order to film their movie Bigfoot versus the Space Killers, and discover that there are monsters in the woods. And it's a decently fun, cheesy little monster movie that doesn't go as heavy on the monster effects as I wanted, nor does it go on nor does it go as heavy on the weirdness and the gore that I wanted. Same with the bad acting. Like, when I read about this, I was like, this kind of sounds like Troll 2 to a certain extent. A certain extent, mind you. It's not as fun as Troll 2, honestly. I mean, Troll 2 is classic. But this is a pretty fun one. If you like, you know, weird little monster movie, if you like weird kind of low-budget monster movies, this is one to look out for. This is a pretty fun... It's a fun movie, that's what it is. It's nothing amazing, but I really did enjoy it for what it was. Next, we got to the final title, which I actually just got done watching. It's Anthropologist 2000. Finally got a copy of this. I've been wanting to see this one for a while, ever since I heard that there was a remake of Anthropologist. Anthropologist, for those of you who don't know, is a Joe D'Amato film. An Italian... Joe D'Amato's like the Italian sleaze master, and he directed a bunch of movies. His most notable films are Beyond the Darkness, which is easily like his best film. That is a very, very good psychological horror film. And as well as Absurd and Anthropologist, those two kind of being, with Absurd kind of being a semi-sequel to Anthropologist. But Absurd, his film Absurd, is one of my favorite films that got on the Video Nasties list. Like, out of all the Video Nasty films that I've seen, that one is one of my favorites. It's really stupid, it's kind of creepy. Not really stupid, but it's cheesy, it's kind of creepy at times. The killer slash monster definitely has a kind of vibe going on that makes him really interesting to watch, and definitely makes him creepy, like something out of a nightmare almost. There's a famous scene where he like rips the fetus out of a pregnant woman and eats it, and that scene is like great. A very well done scene. And here we have the remake, low-budget remake, German remake, done by Andreas Schnasch, who was probably most famous for directing, probably one of the most famous like splatter film series of all time, Violent Shit, which Synapse put out the box set of Violent Shit, which that's a really good set. But I kind of love-hate the Violent Shit movies. I mean, on one hand, they're kind of fun, really gross, violent exploitation trash, and on the other hand, they're kind of boring. At least the first, like, two are. This film I could say just about the same thing about. Like, the gore is really good, but the acting is dreadful, and it really tries to go for the same thing that the original Anthropologist did, which was kind of semi-slow build-up, you know, heavy on the atmosphere, and it really just doesn't work. I will say the last, like, 10, 15, 20 minutes of the movie are genuinely, like, the best, like, segment of the film. But I mean, overall, it really is essentially the same movie as Anthropologist, but with more gore. And yeah, the gore, I mean, Anthropologist, the original, would be a lot more fun to watch if it had more gore. But the original Anthropologist also had a good amount of atmosphere, and the killer was creepy, and the acting wasn't absolutely as bad as it is here. That being said, I would still say this is a pretty solid little, like, you know, low budget film. You know, despite all the negative things I've just said, I still did kind of enjoy it. And solid release from Massacre. You know, first time this film has ever been released officially here in the U.S. Comes with deleted scenes, image gallery, storyboards, and all kinds of crazy shit. And that's really cool, considering this is a low budget German splatter film, you usually don't get any audio commentaries, or not. This doesn't have any audio commentaries, but you usually don't get deleted scenes or anything like that when it comes to low budget German splatter that gets released here in the U.S. Last on the list of DVDs and Blu-rays that I've purchased recently is one that I pre-ordered. I was so happy to finally get this one. It's Popcorn. Popcorn finally out of print. This did come out on Blu-ray a couple months back on the Synapse Limited Edition Steelbook. I don't want to go into detail about why I hate Synapse for doing that with a lot of their movies, because it's just too much to get into. I'll just say right now, I think it's overpriced and not worth the price they're asking for, with the number of features and the fact that it's limited to a couple thousand and not a couple hundred. Instead of going into a long-ass rant about it. But Popcorn is, like, honestly one of my favorite kind of forgotten slasher films of the 1990s. I really, really love this movie. It's a perfect kind of movie if you're into, like, weird cult films. And if you like slasher films, this is definitely one to check out. If you're a big, like, old, cheesy sci-fi horror movie buff, this one is very much an homage to those kinds of movies. In its setup, it's essentially about these film students, and they set up a, like, 24-hour screening of old movies, but complete with all the old, like, William Castle-esque gimmicks that go along with them. For instance, one of them, which I think is a really interesting kind of, is an interesting kind of setup, is they screen this movie this Japanese film called The Stench, and when it gets to a certain scene, they put, like, a fucking odor in the air conditioning system, so that way when there's, like, corpses on screen, the audience smells corpses. It's very scratch and sniff, 3D glasses, people running, paper skeletons flying over the audience's head, kind of gimmick stuff that I love, that old gimmicky shit. I love it so much. And a lot of the kills are based around that too, which is also really, really fun. This is the perfect kind of movie for Scream Factory to put out, and I was really hoping that they would pick it up. But Synapse is just as good. Well, I don't know about just as good, but Synapse is very good when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I do appreciate what they've done. It's got an audio commentary track which I don't know if that was on the previous DVD release that's out of print. It's got a all-new documentary about the making of Popcorn, which is really cool. And apparently it says something on here about fascinating behind-the-scenes document of the troubled film production, covering everything from the replacement of the original star and director to post-production issues with the MPAA, which is kind of weird because I always remember this film being, like, not absolutely devoid of gore, but I don't remember it being a very gory movie. But yeah, Popcorn. I can finally get rid of my shitty fucking my really shitty basic ass bootleg of Popcorn. Put this bad boy in its place. Oh. Whew. The beauty, the majesty. Okay, on to the final thing. This is a poster that I have purchased. A couple posters, actually. There's another one in here that isn't one I purchased. It's just one I'm keeping in this tube as well, because I don't have it hung up. But the company Avon Press, they're doing currently a comic book series based on both Lucio Fulci's Zombie and Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead. Recently, they announced they're doing two more series, one based on the 70s science fiction horror film Laser Blast, which I've seen Laser Blast, and that movie's terrible, and one based on the classic, one of my favorite slash films of all time, Maniac. And they offered posters of both the official cover art for the first issue as well as the slipcover for the first issue. Slipcover one being numbered, limited to 300, or limited to 500, numbered and signed. So here's the one that isn't numbered or signed. It's very, very nice. Joe Spinell on the cover, looking just. I mean, that is literally exactly like Joe Spinell. That looks just like him. Naked mannequins, dead cord, scalped body. That's really nice. I really do like that artwork. Let me roll this back up and put it in the tube. And then we have the other one, which is the limited numbered signed edition that I have actually framed already and hung up in my room, so I had to take it down. But here we go. Look at that. That is a beauty, ain't it? Look at that artwork. That is truly a work of fucking, like, just beauty. Signature signed by the artist right there. The number is right here. Limited edition signature poster series, number 212 out of 500. Very, very good. Very nice artwork. I might have to actually buy the comic book, because I really love Maniac. But that is actually it for this update video. Anyway, guys, this is Biscaboo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.